So it is time for the final video before Resurrection Day, Easter Day. So I guess this is the final video before the final video. So this must be the penultimate video in the series. And here we are. We are just waiting for the final video. Waiting and waiting. One of the things that confuses a lot of people, and has always confused me, is why 3 days? I mean, it wasn't, as we understand it, it wasn't even 3 days. It was 3 separate days that Jesus was in the grave. He was physically in the grave on Friday, he was in the grave on Saturday, and he was resurrected on Sunday. But it was more like 36 hours he was actually dead, which is pretty crazy when you go from saying he was dead for 3 days to, well, it was actually 36 hours. That is because of the way different cultures throughout history have dealt with calling things days. It is true, it was 3 days. It was on 3 separate days. In our culture, if we say you're going to do something for 3 days, you're going to do it for 72 hours. But in their culture, 3 days just meant 3 days. There were 3 days on which it was happening. So it happened. Jesus was dead 3 days. But why 3 days? Why not 4? Why not 1? Why not 7? Why 3 days? The answer is we don't know. And this is something which can trip people up with God. Why so long? Why this length of time? Why that length of time? Why was it roughly 2,000 years between the fall of man and the time that Jesus came? Why has there been another 2,000 years since? Jesus, after his resurrection, said he's going to heaven, but he's coming back soon. Well, to us, it's been 2,000 years since then. Doesn't seem particularly soon. But then again, maybe in God's time frame, Jesus could come in another 1,000 years and it would still be pretty quick. We just don't understand dates and times. There were several times in the Old Testament where God allowed things to happen for 400 years. The Israelites taken into captivity in Babylon for 400 years. I mean, that is a long time. That's not like, in the desert when they came out of Egypt and the people turned against God and everything, and God said, okay, all right, I forgive you. I'll allow the Israelites into the promised land, but everybody who came out of Egypt is going to die first. So they wandered for 40 years, so that all the adults who had come out of Egypt died, and when the last of them died, then the rest of them were allowed into the promised land. That I understand. He's like, well, I'm gonna, you guys. If we go back and we look at the story, there's reasons that they rejected God. Basically, they saw his power. They saw him physically bring them out of Egypt, and it was amazing. And then they still turned against him. And so he said, I'm done with you guys. You guys are not going to see the promised land. But anyway, so I understand that. But then why, when they go into captivity in Babylon, is it 400 years? Why is there such a long period between the end of the Old Testament and the start of the New Testament? This time when God was quiet, silent. Why did Jesus have to be 32 or 33 or however old he was when he died? Why was he in the grave for 3 days? Why has it been so long since he died for us to see him again? We can't answer those questions. God has a plan going on that we just don't have the capacity to understand. And this happens in our personal lives too. Sometimes we ask for things. We want something. We ask for an answer to prayer, and the answer is yes, but not yet. And we have to wait weird amounts of time. Sometimes it could be days, sometimes it could be weeks, months, even years before God answers our prayer. Or at least he's answered it already, but we don't see the answer for all that time. And we don't understand why. And sometimes after it's happened, you can look back and you say, oh, I see. I get it. I see what you were doing there. I see why I had to wait. I got it. And sometimes you're just like, why? I have no idea. But there's this huge plan going on which incorporates the whole planet and every single person. And we just can't possibly comprehend it all. And so sometimes we just have to say, okay, I'm not God. I don't understand. I don't see everything. I don't know why God hasn't come back. I don't know why Jesus had to stay in the grave for 3 days. I don't know why my prayer hasn't been answered. I don't know why my prayer wasn't answered. I don't know why God allows things to go on and on and on and on. But maybe to him they're not going on and on and on. Maybe to him things are happening really quickly. Maybe he's saying, well, you guys are actually on the fast track. I could make this go slow if you wanted to make it go slow. I don't know. I really don't know. And as a teacher, as someone who's trying to teach you about these things and to give you a greater sense of understanding, it is hard to say we don't know. But in the end, that's what it comes down to. In the end, we just have to say sometimes, I'm just going to trust God. And we have to trust God that Jesus being dead for 3 days was the perfect amount of time. We don't know what Jesus was doing while he's dead. Lots of people will come up with ideas of what they think he was doing in that time. We don't know. We don't know why it took that long. We don't know why it's been so long and Christ still hasn't returned. But that doesn't mean we trust God any less. That doesn't mean any of his promises are less true. That doesn't mean that we don't believe him anymore. It just means we don't understand, and we have to just say, God, I'm giving this to you. You know. I don't know, but you know. And so today's lesson, the Saturday of Easter week, is waiting. Sometimes God makes us wait for an amount of time that we don't understand. That doesn't make him less faithful. It doesn't mean that while we're waiting we should turn and we should look at the next big thing or the next best thing and say, well, this God isn't doing this for me, so I'm going to go and do this something else instead. It just means that we have to wait on God. The disciples had to wait on God. We have to wait on God. Jesus fasted for 40 days. I mean, surely God could have just zapped him with some whatever he needed to get out of those 40 days. God could have just clicked his fingers and made it happen so that, everything was right. But no, sometimes things take time. And that's all we have to know. We just have to know that God is in charge and God knows and we don't know. And so we've just got to wait on him. So we are waiting for tomorrow, the mighty resurrection day. And I will see you then. Have a good day.